The metallic clang of tools echoed through the workshop as Dante Reeves tightened the final bolt on the transport shuttle's engine housing. Grease smeared across his tanned forearms, and his dark hair fell into his eyes as he worked. The clock on the wall showed well past midnight, but sleep was a luxury he couldn't afford. Not with 3 more repair jobs waiting and rent due in a week. He wiped his hands on his already filthy coveralls and reached for his coffee. Cold now, but still caffeinated. That's when he heard it, a soft, pained whimper from somewhere near the back storage area. Dante froze, his mechanic's instincts immediately cataloging possibilities. Injured animal? Impossible on a space station. Malfunctioning equipment? Not likely to sound so organic. He grabbed a heavy wrench, just in case, and moved quietly toward the sound. The storage area was dim, lit only by emergency lighting strips along the floor. Boxes of spare parts cast long shadows, creating a maze of hiding spots. Another sound, definitely breathing, labored, and uneven. "I know you're back here," Dante called out, keeping his voice calm and non-threatening. "I'm not security. This is my workshop. But if you're hurt, I can help." Silence answered him, heavy and tense. He took another step forward, and that's when he saw her. She was huddled between 2 crates, her body pressed into the corner as if trying to disappear into the walls. Her skin was a deep crimson color, like red wine held up to light, and her hair fell in midnight black waves past her shoulders. But it was her eyes that caught him, golden and fierce, like molten amber burning with defiance, despite the obvious pain etched across her delicate features. "Stay back," she hissed, her voice accented in a way he'd never heard before. Blood, darker than human blood, almost purple in the dim light, seeped through a makeshift bandage wrapped around her side. Dante immediately raised his hands, the wrench still dangling from one. "Easy. I meant what I said. I'm just a mechanic, not security, not military. Just a guy trying to make rent." He slowly crouched down, making himself less threatening. "But you're bleeding pretty badly. How long have you been hiding back here?" "That's none of your concern, human." She shifted, trying to press herself further into the corner, and gasped as the movement reopened her wound. Fresh blood darkened the already soaked fabric of her torn shirt. "Okay, here's the thing," Dante said, setting the wrench down and keeping his movements slow and obvious. "You can keep bleeding and probably pass out in about 20 minutes, maybe less. Or you can let me help. I've got medical supplies, nothing fancy, but enough to stabilize you until you decide what to do next." Her golden eyes narrowed, studying him with an intensity that made him feel exposed. "Why would you help me? You don't even know who I am. Does it matter?" Dante shrugged. "You're hurt. You're in my workshop, and I'm apparently the kind of idiot who can't walk away from someone in trouble. My ex-girlfriend said it was my worst quality." Despite her pain, something that might have been amusement flickered across her face. "Your ex-girlfriend sounds wise." "She was. That's why she's my ex." Dante smiled slightly. "Look, I'm going to stand up slowly and get my medkit. I'll stay over here if you want. Talk you through treating it yourself. But that wound needs attention now." The alien woman. He could see distinctly non-human features, now that his eyes had adjusted. Elegant pointed ears, slightly angular bone structure, studied him for another long moment. He could see the internal war playing out behind those golden eyes. Pride versus survival. Finally, she gave a small, tight nod. "Fine, but if you try anything, you'll probably kill me in very creative ways." "Got it." Dante stood and moved to his workbench, grabbing the first aid kit he kept for his own frequent mishaps. "I'm Dante, by the way. Dante Reeves." "Cellini," she said after a hesitation. "Celine Cavrita. Pretty name." He returned, kneeling a respectful distance away and opening the kit. "Okay, Selene, I need to see the wound. Can you move your arm?" She reluctantly lifted her arm, revealing the gash along her ribs. Even in the poor light, Dante could see it was deep, the edges ragged as if from a blade designed to tear rather than cut cleanly. "That's going to need more than a bandage," he said quietly. "How did this happen?" I said, "That's none of your concern." Her voice was sharp, but he heard the exhaustion beneath it. "Fair enough." Dante pulled out antiseptic and clean gauze. "This is probably going to hurt. Your people, are you similar enough to humans that standard antiseptic won't cause problems?" Selene blinked, surprised by the question. "Similar enough. Our biochemistry isn't that different. Good to know." He poured antiseptic on gauze and looked up at her. "Ready?" She nodded once, her jaw set. When he pressed the gauze to the wound, she inhaled sharply through her teeth, but didn't cry out. Her hand shot out and gripped his shoulder, hard enough that he'd probably have bruises. But he didn't complain. "You're tougher than most people I know," Dante commented, working as quickly and gently as he could. Up close, he noticed details he'd missed before. Faint, almost luminescent markings traced along her collarbone, barely visible beneath the blood and grime. Her scent was unusual, something like cinnamon mixed with ozone. "I've had worse," Selene said through gritted teeth. "That's not reassuring." He finished cleaning the wound and pulled out a tube of synthetic skin. "This will seal it temporarily and promote healing. It's not perfect, but it'll hold until you can get to a proper medical facility." "No medical facilities," she said quickly, almost panicked. "No official records." Dante paused, the tube in his hand. "You're in trouble. Real trouble." Very observant for a mechanic. The sarcasm was weak, undermined by her obvious vulnerability. He applied the synthetic skin carefully, watching as it bonded with her tissue and began its work. "You're also being chased. That's why you're hiding in my workshop instead of getting proper help." Selene didn't answer, but her silence was confirmation enough. "Okay," Dante said, sitting back on his heels. "Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to pretend I'm the kind of smart person who minds their own business and calls security. But we both know I'm not going to do that." He met her golden eyes directly. "My living quarters are above the workshop. Small, but private. You can stay there while you heal. No questions, no strings." "Why?" Selene asked, and for the first time, her voice held something other than hostility. Confusion, maybe even a trace of vulnerability. "You don't know me. I could be a criminal. A murderer." Dante smiled slightly. "Are you?" "That depends on who you ask." "Well, I'm asking you." Selene held his gaze for a long moment. "I killed someone, but he deserved it." "Then I guess you're not a murderer," Dante said simply. He stood and offered her his hand. "Come on. Let's get you upstairs before you bleed all over my storage area." "That's expensive inventory back there." Selene stared at his outstretched hand like it was a foreign object. "You humans are either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. My friends would vote for stupid." Dante kept his hand extended, patient. "But I prefer to think of it as optimistically reckless." Finally, slowly, Selene reached out and took his hand. Her skin was warmer than he expected, almost feverish. She struggled to her feet, swaying slightly, and Dante moved to support her without thinking. "I can walk," she protested, but didn't pull away. "I know you can. Humor me anyway." He guided her toward the stairs, leading to his quarters. Acutely aware of how she fit against his side. All lean muscle and barely contained strength, despite her injuries. As they climbed the stairs, Selene spoke again, her voice quiet. "I won't forget this kindness, Dante Reeves. It's just Dante, and you can pay me back by not dying in my apartment." The cleaning deposit would be murder. She made a sound that might have been a laugh or a cough. Your humor is terrible. Yeah, my ex said that too. Despite everything, despite the pain and fear and uncertainty, Dante felt something shift in the air between them. Something that felt like the beginning of something neither of them had planned for. He didn't know her story, didn't know what she was running from or why. But as he helped her into his small living space and settled her onto his couch, watching her golden eyes track his movements with equal parts suspicion and something that might have been gratitude, Dante realized he wanted to know, and that, he suspected, was going to complicate his life in ways he couldn't yet imagine. The morning light filtered through the polarized windows of Dante's apartment, artificial sunshine programmed to mimic Earth's dawn. He woke on the floor where he'd insisted on sleeping, his back protesting the hard surface. The couch where he'd left Selene was empty, and for a moment, panic seized him. Then he heard the soft sound of water running in the bathroom. Dante rubbed his face and stood, stretching out the kinks in his shoulders. He'd barely slept, hyper-aware of his unexpected guest, listening for any signs of distress. The bathroom door opened, and Selene emerged, her midnight hair damp and hanging loose around her shoulders. She'd found one of his oversized shirts, which hung on her slender frame like a dress. "You're awake," she said, her voice still carrying that exotic accent, but softer than last night. The hostility had dimmed, replaced by cautious wariness. "How's the wound?" Dante asked, moving to the small kitchen area. Selene touched her side reflexively. "Better. Your medicine works quickly." She paused, seeming to struggle with something. "Thank you. For last night, don't mention it." Dante started preparing coffee, then hesitated. "Do your people drink coffee? Or is it toxic to you?" "I don't know what coffee is." "Oh, you're in for a treat. Or possibly a disappointment. It's 50-50 with most people." He prepared 2 cups, adding sugar to both. "Fair warning, I'm not much of a cook, but I can manage breakfast. Eggs okay?" Selene moved to the small table, settling carefully into a chair. Her golden eyes followed his movements with that same intense observation from last night. "You're very calm about having a stranger in your home. Would panicking help?" Dante cracked eggs into a pan, the sizzle filling the quiet apartment. "Besides, you're not that strange. 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head. I've worked on ships with crews that looked way weirder. My people would say I'm being reckless. Accepting help from an outsider." Selene accepted the coffee cup he slid across the table, studying the dark liquid suspiciously. "Especially a human. Your people don't like humans much?" Dante plated the eggs and brought them over, sitting across from her. "It's not about liking." Selene sipped the coffee, and her eyes widened slightly. "This is ... interesting. Bitter but pleasant." She took another sip. "My people value strength, self-sufficiency. To accept help, especially from another species, is seen as weakness." "Sounds lonely," Dante observed. Digging into his eggs, Selene was quiet for a moment, watching him eat before tentatively trying her own food. "It is. Very lonely." The admission seemed to surprise her as much as it surprised him. They ate in comfortable silence, and Dante found himself studying her when she wasn't looking. In the morning light, she was breathtaking. The crimson of her skin seemed to shift in the light, deeper in shadow, almost glowing in brightness. Those luminescent markings he'd noticed last night traced patterns along her collarbone, and he could see now, down her arms and delicate, swirling designs. "You're staring," Selene said without looking up. "Sorry. The markings on your skin, are they tattoos?" Her hand moved to touch her collarbone. "No, they're birthmarks. Every Kavritan has them, unique as fingerprints." They glow when we experience strong emotions. Do they hurt? No. She finally looked at him, her golden eyes searching his face. Why are you asking these questions? Curiosity. You're the first Cavritan I've met. Dante shrugged. Plus, if you're staying here while you heal, we might as well get to know each other. I shouldn't stay? Selene set down her fork. It puts you in danger. From whoever gave you that wound? Her jaw tightened. Yes, and tell me about it. Maybe I can help with more than just bandages. When she started to protest, Dante held up his hand. Look, I'm already involved. You bled on my storage crates. Might as well know what I'm dealing with. Selene stood abruptly, moving to the window. Her borrowed shirt swayed as she wrapped her arms around herself. For a long moment, she simply stared out at the station's interior, where early morning crowds were beginning to fill the promenades. I was betrothed, she finally said, her voice tight. An arrangement made by my family to strengthen political alliances. I never met him, but I heard stories. Cruel stories. Dante remained silent, letting her speak at her own pace. 2 weeks ago, I was supposed to travel to his homeworld for the bonding ceremony. Instead, I ran. Her hands clenched. His family sent enforcers after me. The wound you treated, that was from the last one who caught up to me. But you got away. I killed him. She turned to face Dante, her expression fierce and vulnerable all at once. I didn't want to. I just wanted to escape. But he wouldn't let me go, so I fought back. And now they'll send more, and they won't stop until I'm dead or returned. Dante stood and moved toward her, slowly, giving her space to retreat if she wanted. She didn't. How did you end up on Waypoint 9? Random chance? I stowed away on a transport, and this was where it docked. I was trying to find passage to the outer colonies when the enforcers found me again. I barely escaped into the maintenance corridors. Her voice dropped. I've been running for so long, I forgot what it felt like to stop. Then stop, Dante said quietly. At least for a little while. Let yourself heal. Selene looked up at him, and in the morning light, he could see tears threatening at the corners of her golden eyes. Why are you being kind to me? What do you want in return? Nothing. The word hung between them. Maybe I'm just tired of being alone, too. Something shifted in her expression, the walls she'd built around herself cracking just slightly. You're a strange human, Dante Reeves. Just Dante, remember? He smiled. And you're a pretty strange alien yourself, Selene Cavrita. This time she smiled back. It transformed her face, softening the hard edges that pain and fear had carved there. Her markings began to emit a faint, warm glow. Your markings, Dante said softly. They're glowing. Selene touched her collarbone, seeming surprised. Strong emotions, I told you. She looked away, but not before he saw color deepen in her cheeks. I should rest. The healing process is exhausting. Take the bedroom. I'll sleep on the couch. Dante, not up for debate. You're injured. I'm not. Besides, I've slept in worse places. Once spent 3 days in a cargo hold with nothing but engine coils for a pillow. He gestured toward the bedroom. Go on. I need to open the workshop anyway. Selene hesitated, then moved toward the bedroom. At the doorway, she paused. Dante? When I'm stronger, I'll leave. I won't bring more trouble to your door than I already have. We'll talk about it when you're stronger, he replied, not committing to agreement. After she closed the door, Dante stood in his small apartment, wondering what he'd gotten himself into. He should report her presence to station security, should protect himself from whatever was coming. But when he thought about those golden eyes, the vulnerability beneath her fierce exterior, he knew he wouldn't. His comm unit buzzed. A message from Marcus Webb, his oldest friend on the station. Heard some nasty types asking around the docks about a Kavritan woman. You know anything about that? Dante's stomach tightened. They were already here, already looking. He typed back, "No, nothing." Why? Just be careful. These guys don't look friendly. Whatever they're after, it's serious. Dante deleted the conversation and pocketed his comb. Through the bedroom door, he could hear Seleni's breathing, deep and even as exhaustion finally claimed her. He had maybe a day, maybe two, before the enforcers widened their search to include workshops and residences. He needed a plan. The day passed in a strange routine. Dante worked in his shop, fabricating parts and completing repairs while his mind churned through possibilities. Every time the door opened, his hand moved reflexively toward the wrench in his belt. But it was only customers and friends. Marcus stopped by around noon, his weathered face creased with concern. He was older than Dante by 15 years. A former transport pilot who'd taken Dante under his wing when he'd first arrived on Waypoint 9 5 years ago. "You look like hell," Marcus observed, leaning against the workbench. "Trouble sleeping?" "Something like that." Dante didn't look up from the power coupling he was repairing. "Want to talk about it?" "Not particularly." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "The Kavritan woman they're looking for. She's dangerous, apparently. Killed one of their own." Dante's hands stilled. "You believe that?" "I believe there's always more to a story than what enforcers tell you." Marcus pulled out a data chip and set it on the bench. Transportation schedules for the next week. Outbound ships, destinations, captains who don't ask too many questions. You know, just general information. Dante looked at the chip, then at his friend. "Marcus, I don't know anything, and you haven't told me anything," Marcus interrupted. "But if hypothetically someone needed to leave the station quietly, that information might be useful." He straightened. "Be smart, Dante. Whatever you're doing, be smart about it." After Marcus left, Dante pocketed the data chip. When he finally climbed the stairs to his apartment that evening, exhausted and grimy, he found Selene awake and moving around the kitchen with surprising ease. "You should be resting," he said. "I've rested enough. Your medicine is remarkable." She gestured to the stove, where something that smelled surprisingly good was simmering. "I found ingredients. I hope you don't mind. I wanted to contribute. You cooked?" Dante moved closer, peering into the pot. "What is it?" "A dish from my home. Vegetables and grains in a spiced broth. It's simple, but it's what my mother used to make." Selene stirred the pot, not looking at him. "I wanted to thank you properly. Words don't seem sufficient." Dante felt something warm unfold in his chest. "You didn't have to do this. I wanted to." She finally looked at him, and her markings gave off that faint glow again. "Sit. Let me serve you for once." They ate together at the small table, and the food was delicious, complex flavors he'd never experienced before. Selene told him about her home world, carefully at first, then with growing enthusiasm as he asked questions. She spoke of crimson forests where the trees grew in spirals, of cities built into cliff faces, of festivals where her people's markings would glow in synchronized patterns. "It sounds beautiful," Dante said. "It was. It is." Sadness colored her voice. "I don't know if I'll ever see it again." "The enforcers are here," Dante said quietly. "On the station. They're asking questions." Selene's hand tightened around her fork, her markings flaring brighter. "How long do I have?" "A day, maybe two if we're lucky." He pulled out the data chip Marcus had given him. "But I have options. Ships that can get you to the outer colonies, places where you can disappear." Selene stared at the chip. "You would do that? Help me escape?" "Yes. Why?" She looked up at him, her golden eyes searching. You keep helping me. Keep risking yourself. I don't understand why. Dante reached across the table, surprising himself, and took her hand. Her skin was warm, and he felt a slight tremor run through her. Maybe I see someone worth helping. Someone who deserves a chance to choose her own life. Selini's breath caught. Her markings blazed with light now, illuminating the dim apartment. Dante, A harsh banging on the workshop door below interrupted her. A voice, deep and authoritative, called out, "We're looking for a fugitive. Open up for inspection." They both froze, eyes locked. Dante's heart hammered in his chest. "The bedroom," he whispered urgently. "Hide. Don't come out no matter what you hear. Dante, please." His hand tightened on hers. "Trust me." After a heartbeat's hesitation, Celine nodded and disappeared into the bedroom. Dante took a breath, composed himself, and headed down to face whoever was at his door, knowing that everything had just become infinitely more complicated. And somewhere, beneath the fear and tension, he realized something that both thrilled and terrified him. He was falling for her.